Hi, I'm Ruth. David just told you who I am and where I'm from. I just moved to Oklahoma a couple months ago from Seattle. So, Royce, you're welcome for Kevin Durant. All of you, you're welcome. What we're going to do here is go back, way back in a time. In days of yore. Okay, actually, it was not this long ago. In days of yore. Actually, it was not this long ago either. Up until a few years ago, Google saw the web more or less like this, and this is an incredible oversimplification. But basically, it was like this. They had websites, right, with me so far. They had content. You could tell what that content was about because of the keywords that were used in it. This website might also have products. They also have images. They have pages. Those pages have words and pictures on them. Google can tell what they're about because of the words. There are other websites, same deal. Those websites link to each other. And using both the keywords that were on the pages and the number and quality of the links pointing to a page, Google would decide when someone searched on a keyword, which pages should come up for that keyword. Now, and this is a gross, filthy, disgusting oversimplification. There's a website, right? Website has content, great. But that website is also a business, and Google's aware of that. A business is something that exists outside of the internet. That business might have a location. That location is a place. You know what places are. It's a noun. That location can be found on a map. In addition to existing in the real world and on their website, this business might also have a presence on social media. If they're on social media, they have friends. This business might also have employees, and the employees might be the ones who write this content. But I don't know about you guys, but I don't stop existing when I'm not at work. I'm a person. So these employees exist outside of their business as people. They might be creating content on other websites. Those websites might link back to each other. They might be friends on social media. That website, which is also a business, might have products. Products are things. They're not just web pages. They're things that exist in the real world. And Google wants to keep track of and map all of these information about all of these different relationships, all of these people, places, and things, what we like to think of as entities. So you're not just a web page, you're an entity. And this one business encompasses all of these different pieces of information. And Google is very interested in, to the best of their ability, mapping those pieces of information together to figure out their relationships. And it does that in a huge data set called the knowledge graph. So this is the knowledge graph result for Rand Fishkin, who is the CEO of the company that I work for. He is either very famous if you are an SEO or you have never heard of him. If he's not an SEO, my fiance is constantly like, Ruth, Rand is not famous, which I think he actually appreciates. When you Google Rand, you don't have to click anything for this result to come up. This all comes up next to the results. And they're pulling all kinds of information. They've got his blog posts. They've got his contact information. They can tell you some things about him. And he's only semi-famous. When you take a really famous person, somebody about whom there are thousands and even millions of pieces of information about on the web, you get something like this. This is the knowledge graph for Justin Timberlake, who they're calling an actor. He's an actor. Justin Timberlake, actor. And they've got a description. They've got his birthday. They know who he's married to. They know his parents. Here are songs of his. You don't have to click to Spotify or anything. There's songs of his you can click to right from the Google result, his albums, and then related searches. This is all stuff that's coming up without you having to click anything. It's called the knowledge graph. You and I are less famous than either Rand or Justin Timberlake, or what was that guy, the jeweler guy, Daniel Glover? Danny Gordon. Daniel Glover is quite famous. The reason that we care is because we can use the knowledge graph to get what are called rich snippets. I'm sure you've all seen these in your search results. They could be something like a personalized snippet, which says that somebody in your Google Plus network has +1 a result. Could be an author snippet where it says who wrote it, they get a picture. Could be news, it could be video, could be a review. You can see how many stars a product has gotten. All of these different rich snippets appear in the search engine, and what they can actually do is increase your click-through rate. Even if you're not ranking #1 for a term, if you're ranking #4, that rich snippet, that image, that video, that star rating draws the user's eye, and you can actually get more clicks through. And how you can do that is in part by contributing to the knowledge graph about you, and it depends on the kind of content you're creating, whether you have a personal blog, you have a business blog, you have a hobby blog, whatever your thing is, whatever kind of content you're creating, you can provide information to Google about what kind of content that is. And I'm going to show you how to do it right now. So there's this website called Schema.org. It's at Schema.org. That's the name of the website and its address. And there are just a ton of different schemas. And what a schema is basically a set of HTML tags that go together that you can use to mark up your content. It might be something like, for example, your address. In days of yore, Google would be able to look at a set of information and say, okay, this looks like a street number and a town and a zip code. I'm going to assume that this is an address. But you had to rely on Google to figure that out, and they weren't perfect at it. Now you can say, hey, Google, this piece of information right here is my address. Here's the street number, here's the town, here's the zip code. And they're like, all right, well, that's where that is. Schema has a ton, like I said, of schemas for you. And you can sort of dig down. They've got this nice little sort of drill down on the home page. Maybe you've got a book, maybe you've got a video, maybe you've got an event or a person, and you can click through. And not every schema is supported by Google, but both Google and Bing have said publicly and repeatedly that schema.org is a supported format that they want to support, and they want you to mark up your content. And the reason that they want you to mark up your content is that in the business of crawling search engines, time is literally money. I mean, not literally, but time costs money because bandwidth costs money, and that is the main expense of a search engine. The less bandwidth they have to spend figuring out your content, the more you can make it easier for them, the more they like that. So you win, they win, everybody wins. The best way to win at SEO is to hope the search engines win too, because they are not public utilities, they are private businesses, and they want to make money. It's a separate rant. So you can drill down, you can find a schema for you. One of the things I really recommend doing is after you look at the big long list of tags in your schema and you go, I don't know what this is or how to use it, oh my God. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and they will have examples of content, like here's the content and here's how you would mark it up. I find I don't even look at the list of tags anymore because every time I look at it, I go cross-eyed. You just scroll down to the examples and you're like, all right, I can do that. That's really where you want to go. So if you are at all able to get into the code of whatever website you're creating content on, or have a conversation with the developer who can, I really recommend doing this. Do not mark up invisible things. That is cloaking, it is bad, it is wrong, it is spammy, you will get caught. So what I mean by marking up invisible things, say you have a keyword that you want to appear on the page a bunch of times, and you want it to appear in the article schema. Do not put it in the article markup in such a way that it does not appear in the page at all, but is only in your code, and then mark it up and hope that nobody will notice, because they will notice. And by they, I mean Google. They have all the money and most of the talent, and they will figure it out. You are not smarter than Google, so do it right. And then you can actually check how your structured data is doing and whether or not Google is able to recognize that your semantic markup, which is also called structured data, is working by going into Google Webmaster Tools, which is also free and you should all have on your sites because it is a great source of information on how Google is crawling and finding your website. And you can go into search appearance and structured data, and it'll tell you where they're finding structured data and what kind. So you can see whether or not you've done it correctly based on that. Google has a tool called the Data Highlighter. Don't use it. It's so easy and is really useful, but it only works for Google. And what we want is to not put all of our eggs in one basket, right? You don't want to only focus your efforts on Google, even though they have the most market share. If you're also getting traffic from Bing and from Yahoo, which is also Bing, and, I don't know, depending on your content, you might be getting traffic from international search engines like Yandex or Baidu. Anyway, if you can mark things up in a non-engine specific way, it will both increase the amount of traffic that you get from those non-Google sources and protect you against Google possibly removing you from the index for some, I'm sure, totally not your fault reason. Google does have a useful tool, which is called the Structured Data Testing Tool. If you just Google Structured Data Testing Tool, it'll come up. There's also a bit.ly link here at my slides that I'll tweet out a link to my slides on SlideShare after this using the hashtag ConfluenceCon hashtag. You can put a URL in here and it'll show you what it would look like if it were to get a snippet. An important note with this is that just because a snippet shows up here does not necessarily mean that it's going to show up in the search engine results, because they don't always show up. It depends on a lot of different algorithmic factors, but it will show you whether or not Google can tell that something is supposed to show up should they deem you worthy of a rich snippet. Another important note is that they do not update the structured data testing tool as often as they update the algorithm. So sometimes things that did work will stop working. So if you're doing regular structured data and semantic markup using schema.org, don't only test it in the structured data testing tool. Make sure you're actually taking some time to do everybody's favorite topic, Google yourself, and see what comes up. Now we're going to talk about authorship. And if you guys are only going to do one schema.org thing, which you're busy, do this one. Do authorship. Authorship basically tells Google who wrote this. So you can see this is a blog post I wrote for Moz, and it says, by Ruth Burr, and it has a picture of me. And that is most important. And it also means once you start doing author markup, it builds your credibility as an entity. We talked about entities. So you can actually start coming up. All I have to type in is Ruth, and that's what comes up, partially because I'm in my own Google Plus circles. But still, it's cool. So why are we doing authorship? We're doing authorship to build authority. We all want authority. Why do we want authority? Because Google wants to, Google and other search engines, but mostly Google, want to send people to websites and to content written by people who know what they're talking about. But what Google is starting to realize is that people who know what they're talking about don't just create content in one place. If I create a blog post on the Moz blog, I do SEO, I know about SEO, Moz's blog is about SEO, it's pretty easy for them to figure out that that is an authority post. However, if I go and write a blog post on a third-party site or on my personal blog, I don't leave behind the fact that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to SEO just because I've gone and created content on a new site. That's not how brains work. So you building authority for yourself as a content creator will follow you any place that you can show Google that you are the one who has created this content. It's also great for those of you who are either doing guest blog posts on other people's blogs or hosting guest posts on your own blogs, because if you manage to get somebody who's really high authority on a topic to create a guest post for you, that lends that guest post their authority. So it's more authority than your blog might have on its own for that topic. Google's like, oh, hey, they know what they're talking about over here on this blog too. And that's great. That's what we want. Small conspiracy theory. Actually, I think it's probably true. But of course I would, wouldn't I? Anyway, I don't think that Google Plus is destined to be a social platform. I think that Google Plus is ultimately going to turn into a verifier of online identity. I think that that is what Google and Google Plus are really focused on, is who are you, where are you, not in like an NSA way, just in a like I want to sell you things way. Who are you, where are you, what do you know, what do you like? Somebody asked earlier, with all the information on the internet, How can you tell what's true and what's right and what's credible? Google's interested in that as well, and this is what they're trying to do. So I think ultimately, Google Plus and Facebook are going to end up in a race to replace the password. You're already seeing it. Log in with Facebook, log in with Google Plus. I think that in the next several years, we're going to see a race for who will be the ultimate arbiter of online identity. That's why Google Plus, when you create a Google Plus profile, they want you to have a picture of your face, because they don't care who your favorite cartoon character is or what your dog looks like. When it comes to your profile picture, they want you. They want your face. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just saying I think that this is what's happening. So in order to implement authorship markup, you have to play nice. So you'll need a Google Plus account. I know I hate using Google Plus. I don't have time. But if you are serious about creating an online brand identity for yourself and you want to play nicely with Google, it's a space you kind of got to play in. And once you get used to it, it's not so bad. You need a clear picture of your face, your real face, not a cartoon face. I uploaded a picture of my face, my first picture, and Google was like, we don't think this is a picture of a face. And I was like, yes it is. That's my face. So, make sure your face is face-like in the picture. And then you're going to need to create some content, which is why we're all here, right? And the content you created needs to be as yourself. If you wrote the product description on your company's website and they don't want you to say, like, by Susie Copywriter, then Susie Copywriter cannot have authorship for that. Also, it needs to be on a page by itself. So if it's on like a big list of pages with a bunch of other content, it's going to be confusing. So what we're really looking for here is like a blog post, an article, a video, something that's on a page by itself. And there are 3 basic ways that you can, I'm going to run over time, I'm so sorry, that you can mark up authorship. This is the one that we use, and it involves 3 steps. And this is for pages, or for websites where you have a profile page, like an author profile page. Step 1, you link to your community profile page, and you use the link tag rel equals author. Then you link from your profile page to your Google Plus page with the link tag rel equals me. You can also use rel equals author there, but I have found that Google tends to get a little confused and thinks that maybe you wrote your profile page, which might not be a bad thing, but it's not really what we're going for right now. And then 3, you add in your Google Plus profile your contributor to. So you can say which sites you contribute to. So then it verifies, okay, author is here, this person says they're me, they say they contribute to this blog, and that keeps people from attributing content to you that you didn't write. So I can't just be like, yeah, Justin Timberlake wrote this post on my fashion blog. Isn't that awesome? Because he didn't. I don't know him. Then there's the to-link method, which you can do if you have control of your byline. So if you are blogging or writing someplace where you don't want your byline, by Ruth Burr, to go to your profile page, and you're okay with that link going directly to your Google Plus profile, you can just add the site under contributor to, and then link to your Google Plus page directly from your byline and say rel equals author. And then the email verification method. If you've got an email address with the site's domain, and for some reason, in addition to having an email address with the domain, you are not in a position to convince them to implement authorship, which I think is a small subset of cases, but is certainly a use case. You can add a link to the email from your byline. If for some reason you can link to your email, but not your Google Plus profile, and then you can add that email address to your Google Plus profile. This is kind of janky, and I wouldn't recommend doing it if you don't have to. Besides, how many email addresses do you really have? I have 2. Oh my God, I'm going to come in under time. Okay, here we go. Final tips. Make sure your byline says by and then your name, your first name, your last name. If you have like a handle that you go by, if you go by like Dr. Smooth Jazz, but then your profile on Google Plus, they're not going to let you call yourself Dr. Smooth Jazz. You're going to have to be like, Randy Smooth Jazz or whatever your name is. Make sure it says your first name and your last name. It says by, first name, last name. Otherwise, Google gets real confused. Make sure it doesn't say by anywhere else on the page. This is something that we struggled with a lot at Moz. Because for a while, if somebody commented and then they went back and edited their comment, it would say like, edited on July 3rd by Erica McGillivray, and then that by first name, last name was confusing Google about who wrote the post. So try to remove any other instances of by plus a name from the page. And then again, just because it works in the validator doesn't mean it will work in real life, so keep on Googling yourself. I recommend using Google Chrome and opening an incognito window. That way you'll see the results without them being personalized, beyond being personalized to your geographic location, which there's not much you can do about that. Thanks, everybody.